Something about this story doesn't sit right. Not because a hack happened, but because of who it happened to. When the person responsible for protecting a country from digital threats suddenly becomes the target of one, it forces people to stop and think. And this time, the breach didn't come through some advanced government system. It didn't involve classified networks or secret databases. It came through something much simpler. Something almost everyone uses every single day. A personal email account. And what followed turned into a situation no one in Washington could ignore.
A major cyber controversy is unfolding right now after an Iran-linked hacking group claimed it has breached the personal email of FBI Director Kash Patel. The U.S. government has partially confirmed it. On March 27, 2026, the group known as Hendala Hack Team released a series of leaked materials claiming they had accessed Patel's personal Gmail account. Not FBI systems, not classified networks, but his personal inbox. According to the United States Department of Justice, the breach is real. Officials say some of the leaked content appears authentic. So what exactly has been leaked? Old emails dating from around 2010 to 2019, a detailed resume listing top secret security clearances, and personal photos. Photos that hackers are using for maximum embarrassment. One shows Patel casually lighting a cigar at what appears to be a social setting. Another shows a mirror selfie in a liquor store, making a goofy expression. All of it stamped with the hacker's branding, turning private moments into public spectacle. The hackers also claimed that the so-called impenetrable systems of the FBI were brought to their knees. But that claim is misleading. There is no evidence of any breach into FBI systems. This appears to be a classic hack and leak operation, targeting an individual, not an institution. Experts say this could be the result of phishing, credential reuse, or weak personal account security. So why Kash Patel? Because he's not just any official, he heads the FBI. And recently, U.S. authorities cracked down on Hendala's digital infrastructure, seizing domains and tracking members. This appears to be retaliation. The U.S. government has already linked Hendala to Iran's intelligence ecosystem, making this more than just a hack. It is part of a broader cyber and psychological warfare campaign.
It started without warning. No build-up, no hints, no signals that something this big was about to drop. Just a sudden post online from a group calling itself the Hendala Hack Team. At first, it looked like noise, the kind of claim that appears every day and disappears just as quickly. But this one didn't disappear. Within minutes, screenshots and files began circulating, all tied to one name. Kash Patel, the sitting FBI director. And the claim was direct. They had accessed his personal Gmail account, not a government server, not an official channel, his private inbox. That alone was enough to grab attention. But what followed made it impossible to ignore. At first, people didn't believe it. Claims like that usually fall apart under scrutiny. But then something unusual happened. Officials didn't shut it down. They didn't dismiss it as fake. Instead, the United States Department of Justice stepped in and confirmed that parts of the leak appeared to be authentic. That single moment flipped the entire story. What looked like speculation suddenly became reality. And just like that, the question changed. It wasn't "is this real?" anymore. It became "what exactly is in there?" The answer caught many off guard. There were no classified files, no secret operations, no sensitive intelligence exposed. Instead, what surfaced felt almost ordinary. Old emails, some going back years. A detailed resume listing high-level security clearances. And then the photos. Personal photos. The kind you never expect to see online. One showed Patel casually lighting a cigar in what looked like a relaxed social setting. Another showed him in a liquor store mirror, making a goofy expression. On their own, these moments didn't mean much. But once they were out there, everything changed. Because this wasn't just a leak. It was presentation. The images were stamped with the group's branding, pushed across platforms, and framed in a way that made them feel bigger than they actually were. It wasn't about what the photos showed. It was about how they were being used. And that's when it became clear, this wasn't about exposing secrets. It was about shaping perception. And then came the bigger claim. The hackers suggested that even the FBI systems had been compromised, that the so-called secure infrastructure had been broken. It was a dramatic statement, one designed to spark panic. But officials were quick to push back. There is no evidence that FBI systems were breached. None. This wasn't an institutional failure. It was something else entirely. A targeted attack on an individual. And that distinction matters more than it seems. Because it shifts the focus from systems to people. From technology to human behavior. And that leads to a much more uncomfortable question. How does something like this even happen? Experts say the answer could be surprisingly simple. It might have been a phishing attempt. A carefully crafted message that tricked the target into giving up access. Or it could be credential reuse, using the same password across multiple platforms. A small habit, but one that can have massive consequences. In many cases, it doesn't take advanced hacking tools. Just one weak point is enough. And that's what makes this so striking. Because it shows that even at the highest levels, the same risks apply. The same vulnerabilities exist. And sometimes, the smallest mistake can lead to the biggest exposure. But the timing adds another layer. Because this didn't happen in isolation. The group behind the leak had already been on the radar of U.S. authorities. Reports suggest that actions were taken against infrastructure linked to them. Domains seized. Networks disrupted. So when this leak appeared, it didn't feel random. It felt like a response. A calculated move following pressure. There are also claims linking the group to Iran's broader cyber ecosystem. Now, it's important to be clear. These connections are based on official statements, but not every detail is publicly confirmed. Still, the implication alone changes how this story is viewed. Because now it's not just about a hacking group. It becomes part of a larger digital conflict. And that's where things get deeper. Because modern cyber operations aren't always about stealing data or shutting down systems. Sometimes, the goal is influence. To embarrass. To create doubt. To show that no one is beyond reach. And in that sense, this situation fits that pattern almost perfectly. It's not about what was taken. It's about what was shown. Because when a high-profile figure becomes the center of something like this, it sends a message. Not just to them, but to everyone watching. That personal security matters. That privacy isn't guaranteed. And that once something is exposed, it doesn't come back. There's also a psychological side to this. The way the information was released wasn't random. It was structured, timed, designed to maximize attention. Not enough to cross certain lines, but enough to create a lasting impact. And that's what makes it effective. Because people talk about it. They share it. They speculate. And that speculation becomes part of the story itself. Some reports claim there could be more material that hasn't been released yet. Others suggest this could be part of a larger campaign. But those claims remain unverified. What's clear is that the impact has already happened. The attention is there. The narrative is moving. And that's often the real objective. But the bigger takeaway isn't just about this one incident. It's about what it reveals. That digital exposure isn't limited to everyday users. That even the most powerful individuals are still connected to the same risks. And that changes how people think about security. Because it's no longer just about protecting systems. It's about protecting individuals. And in a world where personal and professional lives are deeply connected, that becomes much more complicated. There's also a broader implication here. The idea that future conflicts may rely less on direct attacks and more on influence, on perception, on moments like this that create doubt without causing immediate damage. Because once doubt exists, it spreads. And once it spreads, it's hard to contain. That's what makes situations like this so powerful. They don't need to break systems to have an effect. They just need to show that something can be broken. And that's enough. Right now, the situation is still unfolding. Investigations are ongoing. Officials are working to understand how it happened and what needs to change. But the bigger questions remain. Questions about security, about responsibility, about prevention, Because preventing something like this is much harder than reacting to it, especially in a digital world that evolves every day, where new threats appear constantly, where the weakest link isn't always obvious until it's exposed. And that's what makes this story more than just another headline. It's a reminder that digital security isn't just technical. It's personal. It depends on habits, on awareness, on small decisions that seem unimportant until they aren't. And when those decisions happen at a high level, the impact is amplified. But there's one more layer to this story: the public reaction. Because while officials focus on the technical details, the public focuses on what they can see: the photos, the personal moments, the human side. And that creates a different kind of impact. Because perception shapes reality. And once a narrative forms, it's hard to change. That's why the way information is presented matters so much. Not just what is released, but how it's released. And in this case, it was done in a way that ensured maximum visibility, maximum engagement, maximum discussion, which means the objective, whatever it was, is already being achieved. And that's what makes this situation so complex. Because it's not just about stopping a breach. It's about understanding the message behind it and responding to that message. Because if the message isn't addressed, the impact continues. Even after the event fades. Even after the headlines move on. At the end of the day, this isn't just a story about a hacked email. It's a story about vulnerability. About how even the most secure environments can be bypassed if the focus shifts to the individual. About how modern conflicts are changing. And about how the line between private and public is becoming harder to define. Because once that line is crossed, there's no easy way back. And that's the part that stays with people. Long after the story fades. Long after the file stops circulating. Long after the initial shock disappears. Because one question remains. If this can happen here, what does that mean for everyone else? And more importantly, who could be next? If you want more deep, engaging breakdowns like this, where we go beyond the surface and uncover what's really going on, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay tuned, because the next story might already be unfolding.